segment, we're going to be talking about some of the common operations that Python includes that make working with lists really easy. There are a lot of tools included in the Python language, and we're just going to scratch the surface in this class. You're welcome to learn a lot more about the various operations that Python includes for working with lists by reading our textbook or doing your own research on the web. However, the ones that we cover in class are going to be the only ones required in various projects that we'll be completing. The first list operation that we're going to look at is how to print a list. We've actually already seen this. The syntax for printing a list is really similar to the syntax for printing an individual item. You include the reserved word print, and you have parentheses that delimit the item to print, and then you put the list identifier inside those parentheses. So for example, if we have our variable song list declared in our program and we say print song list, Python will print out a list of all the values in that particular list. If we say we want to print out number list, Python will print all the values in our number list. Now realize this is not the most beautiful formatting that we might imagine for a list of values. You can imagine if you asked your phone to print out a list of all your contacts or something, and it printed out these weird square brackets and all the individual elements with commas in between them, you might not know how to interpret that. And so this isn't a great display mechanism for our end user, but this is a great way to get an easy printout of the contents of our list. It's good to use whenever you're creating software as a programmer and you just kind of want to see where you are in your problem solving process. You kind of check to make sure everything you've done up to this point is correct. And we'll be learning about other ways to print out the contents of a list soon, but for now, this is going to serve us well. The second operation that we're going to talk about is the operation that allows us to find the length of a list. Determining the length of the list is determining the number of items that are currently stored in our list data structure. And the syntax for that, it looks like this. You have the reserved word len, and then you have some parentheses where you put the list identifier in there, kind of like what we did for the print statement. And then because the length function returns information, we're going to have to store that somewhere. And so typically we say that some variable identifier gets assigned the value, the result that is calculated when we find the length of this list. So again, we have a variable identifier where we're going to store the result, and we assign the value, the result of this computation, where we find the length of the list. So let's try it out with our various song examples here. We have our song list. If we say number of songs equals len song list, and then print the number of songs, Python will print out 3. That's because there's 3 values in there. Notice that it groups together each song name, the things that are in the quotes. So Mary Had a Little Lamb, even though it has 5 words in it, that's just one element of the list. And Python knows that because they're all grouped together inside the quotes. So we have 1, 2, 3 songs. If we say number of numbers equals length number list, see if you can guess what it's going to print. Yes, 4, you are absolutely correct. Our number list contained 4 values. And again, it notes the individual elements because they have commas separating it. Even if something's a multi-digit number like 2121, that counts as a single value in the list. So that's a really useful function. We're going to find many, many uses for that over the course of the semester. Let's look at a third operation that's very convenient. It's an operation that allows us to arrange the items in a particular order. We call that process sorting in computer science. By default, the sorting tool that's provided in Python sorts things in ascending order, which means smallest to largest. You can think of it as going up a flight of stairs. You're ascending the stairs. You're going from the smallest step to the highest step. The syntax for sorting a list you include the list's identifier, and then a period, and then the word sort, and then parentheses with nothing inside them. So let's try that out on our song list. If we say song list.sort, guess what you think is going to happen? So when we execute that, Python doesn't do anything. It just returns the prompt. And it looks like nothing's happened, but if we print out the value of the song list, we'll see that it's actually rearranged them. So now instead of having Mary Had a Little Lamb first, it has the alphabet song first because that comes first alphabetically. And Python is super smart. It knows how to sort these in alphabetical order. Even if it has multiple things that start with the same letter, it knows to move to the next letter in the string, and it will always put them in alphabetical order perfectly. One thing to be aware of is that when you're sorting things alphabetically, uppercase letters and lowercase letters are treated as different things by the computer. So let's make another example list. We'll make a name list and store a couple of values. We'll put in Robert, Bob, and Bobby. And then we'll say we want to sort the name list. Now when we print out name list, it prints the Bobby first, even though you might not have thought that would be the first thing alphabetically. Uppercase letters are treated as having precedence over lowercase letters. So because this one starts with a capital letter, it comes first. You probably expected it to rearrange the Bob, Robert in this particular order, but you probably expected it to have the Bobby in between them. But because it's capitalized, it goes first. So just be aware of that. If you're trying to sort information, oftentimes programmers will change all of the data values so that they're all uppercase values, or change them all to be all lowercase values. And that alleviates some of the ambiguity about how things might sort alphabetically. Now, sometimes you might want to sort things from largest to smallest, and Python allows you to do that too. You would put in the name of your list identifier, then the word sort, the reserved word, and then you would include this character string, reverse equals true. And in the notes, you can see it has spaces around it. The spaces aren't important. See here, I typed it without any spaces, and it's going to work just fine. We print out name list. Now it's going to be from smallest to biggest. So Robert's first and Bobby's last. And that works with any list. We can use it with number list as well. We say number list dot sort reverse equals true. It'll go from largest value to smallest value. Super. Here's one last example. I think we've already gone through this, but if we say song list, Mary's Lamb alphabet song, Twinkle Twinkle, and then we print that out, what will print? And if we say song list that sort reverse equals true, then what will print? So if you guessed that printing the list the first time is going to print it exactly the way we entered it, you're right. When you run the program, it's going to print Mary's Lamb alphabet song and Twinkle Twinkle. And note that because Mary's Lamb has a single quote in it, it left those double quotes around the string values. When we say we want to sort the list in reverse, it's going to go in reverse alphabetical order. So Twinkle Twinkle, then Mary's Lamb, and then alphabet song. Let's review what we know about the list data structure by answering a few questions. First, what's the purpose of the list data structure? Think about that for a minute. And then after you've created your answer, write a Python program that stores a list of your favorite ice cream flavors. Maybe pick 3 flavors. You don't have to go crazy and pick like 10 flavors or anything like that. After you've created your list, print out the list's contents. And then after you've printed the contents, find the length of the list and sort it alphabetically. Then print the contents of the newly sorted version of the list. So pause your video, take a few minutes to work out your problem-solving solutions, and then come back and you can check your answers. So first, what's the purpose of a data structure? Purpose of a data structure is to organize information in software. And we know that the list data structure is one example of a data structure. It organizes like-typed items or things that are related to each other in a linear collection. Now let's work through our example where we create a Python program that stores ice cream flavors. I'm going to make a new file for this. And step number 1 is to create the list of ice cream flavors. To do that, you need to select an identifier for your list. I'm going to call it flavor list. And then we assign that a value. You could either create an empty list using the square brackets, or you can store your values directly in there. I think that's going to be more straightforward because we do know that we want to add at least 3 ice cream flavors here. My favorite flavor is vanilla. My husband's favorite flavor is chocolate. And my kids like cookies and cream. I'm going to put those in my list. The next step in our solution, we want to print out the list's contents. So we're going to say print and then flavor list. Next, we want to find the length of the list. I'm going to call it list length equals. And then I need to use the len command to say what's the length of my flavor list. And then I'm going to print that out. And then finally, we want to sort my flavor list alphabetically. To do that, we want to say flavor list.sort. And we want it to be in ascending order, so we don't need to put the extra reverse string in there. And then finally, I'm going to print the updated flavor list. At this point in the semester, I'm going to start saving some of the Python files that I create during the lecture videos, and I'll upload them to Canvas. There'll be a special directory that says Python examples from lecture, and you can click on that anytime to download the examples from lecture and play around with them. When we run the program, let's move our code over here so we can see what's happening. Python creates our flavor list, vanilla, chocolate, cookies, and cream. We ask it to print it out, and it prints exactly those values. Then we asked it to find the length of the list and print out that value. That's why it printed the 3. And then finally, we said we wanted to sort it in ascending order and then print it out. And so it prints chocolate, cookies, and cream, and then finally vanilla. At this point, you should understand the benefits of using the list data structure, know the syntax for declaring a list in Python, and be familiar with the print, len, and sort operations.